Alright, so today I'm going to go through the three ways to think about division. Our first way to think about division, if I had 8 divided by 4, would be I had 8 cookies and I want to split them into 4 people so that each person gets the same amount of cookies. How many cookies does each person get? So 8 divided by 4 would be how many cookies each person gets. How would you solve this problem? One way to do it is you keep giving one cookie to each person until you run out of cookies. So you have 8 cookies right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you have 4 people. So here 1, 2, 3, 4. You give everyone one cookie. Boom, 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 and boom. You still have 4 cookies left. You give everyone one more cookie. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now everyone has 2 cookies. So 8 divided by 4 would be equal to 2. This leads on to the second way to think about division, which is 8 divided by 4 is how many times does 4 fit into 8? Or in other words, how many times can you subtract 4 from 8? So if you look here that you can subtract 4 2 times from 8 before you reach 0, which means that 4 fits 2 times into 8. Or the number of times you can subtract 4 from 8 is equal to 2. How does this relate to our first way of thinking about division? Well, you can think about it, you can think of subtracting 4 as giving everyone a cookie. So each time you subtract 4, everyone gets one more cookie. The first time you subtract 4, everyone gets one cookie. The second time you subtract 4, everyone gets 2 cookies. So the number of times you subtract 4 is how many cookies one person has. And here you could subtract 4 2 times, which means that everyone gets 2 cookies. So the answer to 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. Now I want to relate division to multiplication. Here I am saying that 8 divided by 4 is how many cookies each person gets. Now there are 4 people in total, and let's say I don't know how many cookies they have. So this guy is holding some cookies, but I don't really know how many cookies this guy has. I don't know the answer. But what I do know is that they have the same amount. Let's call how many cookies each person gets as x, because I don't want to write down how many cookies each person gets every single time. So what I do know about x is that x plus x plus x plus x is equal to 8, because there are 4 people in total and each person gets x amount of cookies, and there are 8 cookies, which means that x plus x plus x plus x is equal to 8. And I can actually rewrite this as x times 4 is equal to 8, because remember what multiplying is. It's adding the number on the left, the number on the right times. So x times 4 is equal to x plus x plus x plus x, which means that x plus x plus x plus x is equal to x times 4. So now that I can rewrite this thing here, x plus x plus x plus x plus x, as x times 4, I can refer to my multiplication table. You can see that 2 times 4 is equal to 8. So let me write that down. I know that 2 times 4 is equal to 8, and I also know that x times 4 is equal to 8. What do you realize? What you do realize is that x is equal to 2. It has to be 2. If x was bigger than 2, let's say x was 3, 3 times 4 is equal to 12. So if I had 4 people and each person gets 3 cookies, then I would need 12 cookies, which means that x cannot be bigger than 2, because they would all require more cookies. What if x was smaller than 2? Let's say 1. Let's say x was 1. Well, 1 times 4 is equal to 4. So x cannot be smaller than 2 either because they would be smaller than 8. They will require less cookies. So whenever you have a multiplication or division problem, you can use multiplication to solve it. If I had 12 divided by 3, we're going to set it to x as well. Well, x times 3 is equal to 12 because you split 12 into 3 people and they get x cookies each, which means that 3 people times how many cookies each one has is equal to 12. Now, if you refer to the multiplication table here, you know that 3 times 4 is equal to 12. So 3 times 4 is equal to 12, or 4 times 3 is equal to 12, which means that x is equal to 4. X cannot be bigger than 4. If it was bigger than 4, you'll need more cookies than 12. If it was less than 4, you'll need less cookies than 12. And this also relates to our second way of thinking about it as how many times does 4 fit into 8? So you can think of 8 as 4 plus how many times, I don't know, you keep adding 4. This is x times. And you can rewrite this as x times 4. And you can refer to your multiplication table again. You know that 2 times 4 is equal to 8, which means that x must be equal to 2. Now let's move on to our third way of thinking about division. Let's say I have 8 divided by 4, or actually let's do 8 divided by 2. I want you to think about this as shrinking from 2 to 1. So basically what I'm saying is before you had 8 things, now you only have a half of 8. You're dividing 8 into 2 equal pieces, and you're finding out how many things does each piece have. Now you might be saying, this is exactly the same as our group method. You have 8 cookies, you divide the cookies into, you have 8 cookies and you have 2 people, you're dividing them between 2 people. How many cookies does each person have? Well, it is exactly the same until I say this. Whenever you divide by 2, I want you to think about it as you're shrinking into that group. So what about 8 divided by 4? You have 8 things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you divide by 4. I want you to think about it as you have 8 things before you have this many, and now you shrink. Boom, boom, and boom. You shrink down to 2. That's what 8 divided by 4 is. Instead of thinking of the other groups, you don't care about the other groups. You want to just look at one group, and you have to imagine shrinking what you had before into this one group. Now let's look at another example. You know that 3 times 4 is equal to 12. So let's write 3 rows of 4 columns. Okay, I don't think I'm making sense here. So like 3 rows of 4 dots. So there are 12 dots in total. What's 12 divided by 4? Well, with our new way of thinking about it, it's shrinking from 4 to 1. It doesn't matter what the number on the left is. It doesn't matter if this is a 12 or a 16 or 100. You're shrinking from before you had 4 things and now you only have 1. You can see with 12 you have 4 columns of 3 dots. And with our new way of thinking, before you had 4 columns, now you only have 1 column. So 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3. What about 12 divided by 3? Now I want you to think about it as before you had 3 things, now you only have one thing. Can you see here in this picture what used to have 3? What has 3? Um, Maybe I'm not wording it very clearly, but here you can see that you have 3 rows. And dividing by 3 means before you have 3 rows, now you only have 1 row. So before you had all of these, now you only have this one, which is 4. which means that 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. Before you had 3 rows, now you only have 1 row, and 1 row contains 4 balls. So the answer to 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. That's all how I want you to think about division, as shrinking it into one group rather than uh, rather than keeping in mind of every single group, and you're just looking at one group and seeing how many things there are. Yeah, so think about division as shrinking. 8 divided by 2, shrinking into half of 8. 12 divided by 3, shrinking from 3 to 1, shrinking everything from 12 into 4. Before you had 3 rows, now you only have 1 row. You're shrinking from 3 rows to 1 row, and the answer will be 4. So that's how I want you to think about division. Thank you.